Hi, welcome again. In this video, we're going to look at how to create landscapes using world partition in Unreal Engine 5. Alright, now we're looking at a simple landscape created using Unreal Engine 5 world partition. It just looks like a traditional landscape that we used to have. So basically we have this grass, and this is RVT enabled grass. So it gets the ground color from the RVT, and yeah, it's pretty nice. And then we have a typical landscape. So what's the difference? Alright, let me go up a little bit. Alright, now I can select these individual items in the landscape. So basically you can see on the world outline, they are calling at streaming proxy. So basically we are chunking the whole landscape into multiple sections. Section is not a technical term, like multiple parts, and then as the player continues through the level, these things can be loaded dynamically at runtime. So with that one, we can create a really large landscape in Unreal Engine 5. But here in this tutorial, we're not going to create a large landscape, but it's a 2K landscape. But I want to show you the techniques and things that you want to learn. But in upcoming tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a really large landscapes. So let me demo some of the things with this world partition. First of all, I can go to window, and there's a new window called world partition, this one. So I can see some tiles over there. So let me by default, let me unload all these tiles. Right, now you can see there's nothing inside my editor. So let's say I want to edit some specific area of my landscape. I can simply select some area like this and simply select load selected cells. Right, then I can right click and move camera here on the center. Right, then I can see my landscape over here, this specific part. So then I can do any changes over there, and then if I want to load some other part, I can select over here, load selected cells, right click and move camera over there. Yes, this is my part. All right, okay, that's nice. Right, now we only load these tiles in the editor, but if you're running the game, so there's a different mechanism to load these streaming proxies or different parts of these landscape. All right, let me show you how to do that. And go to your window world settings tab. You can see over here in my screen, and here search for world partition. Right, and let me get some more room over here. Then here we have something called runtime hash. Right, then you can open that, and there's array, and I can expand. So grids, I can expand that as well. So now we have some information about the grid. All right, then here I have something called preview grid. I can enable that. Okay, now you can see something like this. So that's really interesting. All right, let's try to start from scratch and try to create your first landscape with Unreal Engine 5 world partition. Alright, let's try to create a landscape with world partition support in Unreal Engine 5. Alright, first I need to enable world partition, edit, project settings, and search for world partition. Here we have a checkbox called enable world partition. Just enable that. Now you have to restart your project, and let me do that. Now I'm going to create a new level, file, new level, and I'll start with the empty level. Right, there's nothing inside that. First, let me add some lighting into the scene. So you can grab directional light and create a simple atmosphere here. Here I'm using open land as my landscape material. Open land comes with a simple actor called sun sky. Basically you can search it from the content directory, and you can simply drag that in the scene, and it will simply add the basic sun and sky setup for you. Right, then I'm gonna save this as a new level. Then I need to verify whether we have the world partition support or not. So I can do that by simply opening the window, world settings window like this, and search for world partition. Right, now if everything is working fine, you should see world partition is enabled like this. Right, now let's create our landscape. Here we have the landscape icon, and I'm going to click that. Now you have the typical landscape creating workflow. Here, just to demonstrate how everything works, I'll start with the create new landscape without any height map. Here now you can see this is the basic setup. We have a landscape with the 8x8 components. Right, now with world partition enabled, now here there's a special option called world partition grid size. By default 2. So here's what happens. If you set 1 over here, it will create a 1 landscape streaming proxy for each and every component. So here we have 8x8 components, then it will create 8x8 streaming proxies as well. But if we put something like 2, it will grab 2x2 components and create one streaming proxy. For example, if I set 4 over here, then it will create only 2x2 streaming proxies. You get right. Then let me show you that, and I'm gonna hit create. Then let's go a little bit up. I might increase my camera speed. Okay, and then I'm gonna close the landscape tool. Right. Then I'm gonna select over here. Now you can see we have 2x2 streaming proxies. Now that's okay. Now I need to start from scratch. I need to use a height map as my landscape setup. Okay, let me try to delete this landscape. I'm gonna select this and I'm gonna hit delete. But unfortunately, you cannot delete the landscape. That's a bug with this Unreal Engine 5 early preview. So all you have to do is to create a new level. So there's no shortcut to get rid of this. So right now I'm gonna create a new level, empty level. I don't need to save anything. Right, then I'm gonna save this level as my new map. Right, then I'm gonna drag my sun sky actor again into the scene. So that's why we use the sun sky actor rather than setting the sun and sky atmosphere all the time, because otherwise it will be really difficult when you're trying out this. Okay, now let's create our landscape again. And this time I'll keep a grid size as 2. And I'm gonna import height map like this. This is a 2K height map. It's a very small height map, especially considering we are working with world partition, but this will help us to understand how everything works. Right, then I'm gonna hit import. Now you will see something like this, and we don't have any landscape material applied over here. Right, now let's try to apply the landscape material. Unfortunately, we cannot apply the landscape material to the root landscape that you can see here, but we have to add it to each and every proxy. But fortunately, we can select everything by clicking over here and going to the end and shift select, and we can select all the streaming proxies. Then I can go to the details panel and I can add my landscape material over here. Here, since we are using OpenLand, I can add mi_OpenLand as my landscape material, but if you're using something else, and that would work as well. Right, now we get a mirror-like surface now. That's because we haven't added any paint layers. So now I'm going to do that. I'm going to my landscape icon again, and we are in the landscape editor. Here I'm going to my paint section. Then here we have the usual landscape layers, comes with OpenLand. I'm going to select the first layer, and then I'm going to select the layer info here. Now we have a landscape with auto material. Cool. Right, this is exactly what we need. Now you can see we can select each individual streaming proxies, but how we can load and unload them. So inside the editor, we have a new window called world partition. You can get that by window world partition. And here we have a grid like this. So I'm going to select everything first, right click and unload selected cells. Now I can select part of my landscape, maybe something like this. I'm going to right click and load selected cells, and it will crash like this. And that's totally fine because this is the early product and you will see messages like this. I cannot predict how and why this happens, but if you get this, and try again. So that's the only advice I can give you. All right, let me open the map again. Right, now it's black. Okay, let me load everything first. Window, world partition, select everything, right click, load selected cells. It will take some time. All right, now we have everything loaded here. Right, try to see how this works. Let me play this once. Alt P. But now everything looks black. Why is that? And let me show you why that's happening. So here I told you earlier that with world partition works with any sort of actors, and it will try to load actors based on the location. So here we add our sun and sky system as an actor like this, but that actor is also bound to the location based loading. So that's why we get the black screen, because this actor is not loaded. And how can you change that? Quite easy. Go to the details panel and search for world partition of this actor. And here we have a grid placement option, and you can set that to always loaded like this. And then I can play and you can see, yep, everything is working as expected. Now we know how to load and unload actors or streaming proxies into the level, but how can we do this inside the game? Because we don't have this sort of control over there. So that's where the runtime grid comes in, and let me show you how to configure that. All right, that's to make things looks good. First, let me load everything into the level, and you don't have to do this. Then I'm going to open my world settings window again, and here I'm going to search for world partition. Right, then, and here we have a section called runtime hash. Okay, and then I can expand it further and further, and then I'll get like an array like grids. Okay, and then here we have something like this. So this is our main grid. So this is the place how we can configure how to load these actors or streaming proxies. First, let me enable this preview grid by clicking over here. Then if I look at my landscape, you can see a grid over here. Then I can control the loading range like this. Okay, and also I can change the cell size, individual cell size, and I'm quite not sure how this cell size is going to affect your landscape loading, but I think it will definitely shape the size, and maybe there's a performance, and if you know what this actually does, and please leave a comment or yeah, help us. Right, now let me play this level. Right, as you can see, there's no much content in my landscape because those streaming proxies are not loaded yet, but I can walk there. Then as soon as I go there, you can see those parts are loading, and then if I look back, and so I cannot see the whole landscape, then I can go there, and now you can see the things are loading as I go through them. So that's cool, but we definitely need to increase this grid loading area. So I can go to world settings, and I'm going to increase that into some decent value, maybe like this. But I think this size is completely depend on your landscape and the project that you are working on. I think for this one, I guess this is just fine. Alright, now let me remove this preview grids option. Now let's try to add the RVT support into this project. So then we can use RVT based graphs, and also we can do RVT blending with static meshes and so on. So in order to do that, I'm going to use the OpenLens RVT tools. Otherwise, configuring that would be a nightmare because you have to enable RVT for each and every streaming proxy here. Then I'm going to go to content directly, open the OpenLAN directory. Then I'm going to open this widgets directory. Here we have a widget called OpenLAN RVT widget. I'm going to right click and run editor utility widget. Right, then we have a widget like this. Okay, I'm going to dock that into a place like this. Before we begin, and let me unload all of my cells and load just the middle area of my landscape. And I'm trying to show you something here. Now I'm going to hit this add RVT support button, and then it will add two actors called RVT volume height and RVT volume material. Then I can go up, and now you can see there's a volume covering my landscape. All right, let's say I'm going to open a new set of streaming proxies like this, then move camera over there. Now you can see there's no volume in that area. In this case, all you have to do is open this widget again and click this extend volumes button. Then it will expand the volume to cover your streaming proxies. So all you have to do is try to load your streaming proxies one by one. You don't need to load everything at once. Maybe you can do that as a team, and then all you have to do is just click extend volume, and it will add the RVT volume as you click this button. Okay, cool. Now let's see whether RVT support is really working or not. In order to do that, I need to make sure we have added the virtual texture support to our project. Go to edit, project settings, and search for virtual texturing. Then I need to click this enable virtual texture support checkbox, right? Then I have to restart my project. Yeah, I need to save everything. And let me open my map again. All right, and we have our volume. Yes. Now I'm going to enable the RVT cache option. So then we can determine whether we can see the landscape or not. I'm going to open my landscape material and select one of my streaming proxies. Go to details panel and open the landscape material like this. Then here I'm going to search for RVT cache, and I'm going to hit this button. So then it will show my landscape as a black, and that's totally fine. I'm going to save this and I'm going to close this. Then I'm going to move closer. Nothing happens. So this is a bug in world partition. Even though you added RVT support, it won't show up immediately, and there are some things that you can do. First, you can try to open the level again. In this case, it didn't help for sure. Then I can try to change the location of this landscape by selecting the root landscape actor and try to change the C location maybe 105. Okay, now let me go closer to my landscape. Okay, nothing happens. Now let's try to click that button again at the RVT support. All right, again nothing happens, and I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna play this. Then I can see the landscape like this, but in editor it's still black. All I can do is trying out some options. Maybe I can hit this button again. Oh yeah, nothing happens. Maybe I can unload everything and load it back. Right, now you can see things are coming as I move my camera over there. Basically, I cannot give you like a correct way to enable this, like it's just a bug, and you have to experiment with few different things that I showed you earlier, and eventually it will work. Alright, now you can see there are some black areas like this. There seems like clipping, and the reason is obvious because we don't have volume in that area. So that's not a bug. Simply you have to do is open this RVT widget and try to click this extend volumes button, and then you can go closer and it will load this. Extend this button, nothing happens. That's fine. That's a bug. I can play the level. Things are still black. So you get the idea. So it's the same cycle, and try to do different things to like get the RVT support. But I assume everything will be fixed by when we have the proper UE5 release, as I showed you earlier in the intro. In an upcoming lesson, I'll show you how to create really large landscape by importing height maps, as well as try to create them procedurally inside the engine completely. Yep, it will be fun. See you soon with something interesting. Bye.